All right, we're gonna go ahead and start off with Derek, our senior project manager at the state office, is gonna give a quick overview of what the variance process is, and then we'll jump into a discussion on some of the projects. So Derek, take it away.
Thanks, Tony. So some of you may have been a participant in a previous meeting that we had, which was for the Colorado River District and the variance projects going on out there. So this will be a little bit of a refresher for you guys. And then for others who are new to this process, I will explain how, the variance works, what it is and how it works. So back in 2012, the Bureau of Land Management published the Western Solar Plan and signed a record of decision on that programmatic EIS. The Western Solar Plan looked at the potential for solar energy development in 6 states here in the West. Arizona is one of them, and tried to establish some guidelines about best practices in moving forward with permitting solar development. The product of it was 2 different designations for land management with respect to solar, and it amended these land use plans through this plan. One of the designations were for solar energy zones, and we have a couple of these around the state. We have one near Brenda, Arizona, one here in the Phoenix district near Gillespie, and then we also have another one in the Yuma field office called Agua Caliente. And these solar energy zones were seen as lands that were most appropriate for solar energy development. And therefore, through the land use plan amendment, these were kind of put forth as the preferred locations and sort of set aside, if you will, for renewable energy, for solar energy. The rest of the land was subject to, was designated as variance land. Some of that variance land was excluded. So lands within areas of critical environmental concern, national monuments, areas with high slope. There was a list of about 30 different characteristics of the land that would exclude it from solar energy development. And then the remaining land out of that, the remaining variance land that wasn't excluded, is subject to the process that we're in now, which is the variance. And a variance is a kind of a pre-NEPA examination of a proposal before we formally accept the project and carry it forward into NEPA. So what we're doing in the variance process is looking for what we might call sort of show-stopping resource concerns. These are going to be things like cultural resource issues that may not be able to be mitigated. Impacts on sensitive habitats would be another one. Conflicts with other major land uses that are already permitted on BLM land, or land uses that might be particularly sensitive to our publics, like recreation. And if we're able to identify these issues, we can either work with the applicant to sort of revise their project at this early stage to avoid those issues. We could reject the project and just say this is insurmountable and we're not going to entertain your project. Or we can acknowledge the major issues, but also other issues as well, and carry those forward into NEPA. And so to carry a project into NEPA, we need to kind of account for any major issues that are out there and summarize that, make a recommendation to our state director, and then a final concurrence from the BLM director in Washington. And if she concurs and agrees that a project can move forward to NEPA, then we'll begin the formal NEPA process, which includes, our formal consultation with the Fish and Wildlife Service, formal consultation with sovereign tribes, and that really hard look at alternatives as to how to best address the issues that are out there. And so what we're trying to accomplish today is really to introduce these projects and really see if there are any show-stopping issues out there or other issues of concern that we'll definitely want to be aware of should we move forward into NEPA. So it's kind of like a pre-scoping process, a pre-NEPA process. We're not really examining alternatives at this stage. We are just simply operating with what we know, which is a proposal, a kind of footprint for an area, some information about the technology, and we have the applicants here to share that with you. and then yeah, and then just trying to get some early feedback to roll into our kind of pre-NEPA report here. And with that, I'll make myself available for some questions about this right now. All right, hearing none, Tony, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Derek. And if anyone has any general questions on the variance process, feel free to drop those in the chat. Derek or I can follow up with you guys either during the meeting or after the meeting to try and answer those questions. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. The applicants for these projects are going to be presenting about their projects, but I'm going to start off with just a quick orientation of where the projects are that we're going to be discussing today. We've got 3 different projects on the queue. The first one up that we're going to be talking about is going to be the Western Tiger Solar Project that's up in this area here. After that is going to be Pinyon, which is down over here, right on the border of Maricopa and Pinal County. And then we've got Vulcan 2 Solar, which is over here in green. Each of the applicants also have some maps on their presentations to help orient you where we're talking about, but I just wanted to have a good map that showed kind of where all these projects were at in one area in relation to each other. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen sharing and hand it over to Toby, who's going to be presenting on behalf of Primergy. So Toby, go ahead and pull that up and let me know if you have any issues with it, and I can try and pull it up on my end.
Hopefully not. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Seeing this?
Yes, we're seeing the presenter side of it. Oh, there we go. Good to go. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, hi, everyone. I think I have 5 minutes for this, so I'll keep it fairly brief and in the spirit of the variance process. Obviously, the information about the project is fairly high level at this point. So my name is Toby Butterfield with Primergy Solar. I'm here as the project manager for the Western Tiger Solar and Storage Project. Briefly, a little background on Primergy Solar. Primergy Solar itself is a fairly new company, only been around a few years, but it is essentially a startup comprising a lot of very experienced old hands from the industry, folks who've been around for a few decades, developing and building solar and wind assets all across the country. So collectively, the team has constructed and managed over 12 gigs of solar assets since 1999. We're backed by a private equity firm, Quinbrook Infrastructure Partners, which has raised, I believe, around $28 billion or invested around $28 billion across the US, the UK, and Australia in low carbon infrastructure. So pretty significant financial backing and significant experience and capability to deliver on these projects. Indeed, we are currently just beginning construction on the Gemini project in Nevada, which is also sited on BLM administered lands and will be the largest solar plus storage installation in North America when complete. As far as the Western Tiger project itself, I'm the director of development at Primergy, focusing on this project in particular. I'm also supported by SWCA, Megan Dugan and Krista Perry on their team are helping with the NEPA process. So as Tony showed earlier, the Western Tiger project is approximately 50 miles northwest of Phoenix, and it's just northwest of Buckeye. It's also fairly close to Wickenburg. I think we have the vice mayor of Wickenburg on the line, if I saw correctly in the chat. So hello, welcome. It's near the Vulture City ghost town, if folks know where that is. The project configuration is an up to 650 megawatt AC solar photovoltaic plant, coupled with a 350 megawatt battery. This will be a fairly typical solar photovoltaic installation, single axis tracking. So it'll track the sun from the east to the west throughout the course of the day. It'll have driven pile foundations. This is in my mind, sort of the typical type of solar installation you have probably seen. It is notably not any type of power tower with concentrating solar mirrors, and it will also not make any use of steam turbines or boilers that would create a significant water requirements over time. This is a just sort of sits there and tracks the sun from west to east and directly generates electric power via photovoltaic technology. If there are questions on the technical details or configuration of the plant, I can go really deep on those, but I don't want to belabor the point in my 5 minutes here. One thing that is worth noting is that Primergy is committed to a particular type of tracker technology and site design that allows us to mostly, if not entirely, follow the existing topography using the trackers. So without going too much into the technical details of that, in the past and in other companies, you may have seen that in order to install a solar project, they'll come in and do mass grading of the site to kind of flatten it out. We don't do that. The major problem of mass grading, aside from being expensive, is that it destroys all the underlying vegetation. So we are committed to using this tracker technology that can just follow the grade of the site, and thereby we're able to significantly minimize change to existing topography and substantially leave in place the existing vegetation, although it does need to be mowed during construction. So that's one sort of difference from the typical construction practices you might have seen in the past. As far as the site and the solar area, I'll go into a more detailed map in a moment here. The solar area comprises 5,500 acres of BLM land and 460 acres of Arizona State Trust land. The solar area is split by a BLM multi-use corridor, and I'm going to tab ahead here to the map just to illustrate that. So you can see in green, those are the BLM land areas. Yellow is the Arizona State land. Obviously, there's a significant discontinuity in the BLM land areas. That's the multi-use corridor. The proposed I-11 expansion goes through this corridor. So at this time, we're sort of anticipating and frankly hoping that we're able to fit the entire first phase of the project just on the eastern side of that corridor. But depending on what studies reveal, we may sort of need to go into and figure out how to cross that corridor. But that's not really the expectation at this time. The project would also require an 11-mile, 230 kV overhead transmission line to reach our point of interconnection. The routing on that is currently under evaluation and to be determined. Again, the map and what was distributed shows this kind of Genti evaluation area. It's this big gray box. Somewhere we'll have a 230 kV overhead line to reach that Sun Valley substation, which is our point of interconnection to the broader electrical grid. This is mostly private ownership in this area, and so that exact routing will need to be determined based on coordination with the private landowners. There are existing transmission lines through here. It will likely be minimally least impactful to simply follow and parallel the existing transmission lines. And our point of interconnection is at the existing APS Sun Valley substation down here near the Hassayampa pumping plant. Oops, sorry. This is an area of the APS system that I believe they are pretty interested in taking renewable energy at, and it's well positioned to serve load in the greater Phoenix area. So that feels like it's probably about 5 minutes, fairly brief, but happy to take questions, and also in the presentation, or email addresses for myself and Megan if folks would like to follow up with us separately.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, sorry for the technical difficulties. Good morning, everyone. My name is Luke Shillington. I work for a company, 8 Minute Solar Energy. My role is the Vice President of Transmission, or Vice President of Permitting. I'm joined on this call by Jason Moretz, who is the lead developer for this project, as well as a couple of our other permitting folks, Tracy Hamilton and Laren Cyphers. Also on this call, we have Lisa Young and Patricia McCabe, who are with Logan Simpson. They are the environmental consultants that are working with us on this project. So like Toby, I'm going to try to go fairly quick here to leave time for questions. Just first couple slides are just a brief overview about 8 Minute Solar Energy and who we are. Our mission is that we're committed to leveraging technology to provide the cleanest, most reliable, and lowest cost electricity on the planet, while also creating jobs and economic opportunities for the communities we serve. Here on the left is a photo of one of our projects in California, our Eland Solar and Storage Center. So similar to the presentation before, this project would involve solar photovoltaic generating facilities. So similarly, not the power tower, no mirrors, no steam. These are just solar modules mounted on trackers so that they track the sun throughout the day. And there will likely be an energy storage component to this project as well. 8-Minute is one of the nation's largest solar and energy storage developers. We are currently a privately held company. We've got a large pipeline. We have about 18 gigawatts of solar under development, accompanied by 24,000 megawatt hours of energy storage. We've got a proven track record. We've got about 5.5 gigawatts of solar projects contracted, 4,500 megawatt hours of storage contracted, and currently have 2 gigawatts of projects that have been constructed and are currently operating. Company started off in California, which is one of our major markets, but also a very substantial part of our pipeline is in the Southwest, primarily right now in Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, but we have some early stage stuff in New Mexico and Colorado as well. And then we have a pipeline of projects in Texas and Oklahoma, with a few of those projects that were recently constructed and are currently delivering energy to the grid in the last couple of years. A couple of the things that 8-Minute is proud of. In 2011, we began developing the nation's largest solar PV cluster. That's our Mount Signal projects in Imperial County, California. In 2016, we brought online the first solar project to beat the cost of fossil fuels. And in 2019, we secured a deal with the largest municipality in the U.S. to deliver solar and storage at record low prices. This map has some of our offices on it. We've got offices in Los Angeles, San Diego. I'm based out of San Francisco. Another office in El Dorado Hills. Jason, who's on the call, the lead developer, is up in our Salt Lake City office. And then we've got an office in Austin. This slide is a little outdated because we recently also have an office in the Phoenix area. So on to the project. Our Pinyon solar project that we have proposed would be built, if approved, on about 1,700 acres. It would be a 300 megawatt AC photovoltaic project, and also very likely include an energy storage component. Size of that is yet to be determined. Project is located, the generating facility would be located right here, which is on BLM lands in Maricopa County. Our point of interconnection for this project is the Pinal West substation, which is just on the other side of the line in Pinal County. And we are still contemplating the routing of our transmission line, our gen tie line from the project to Pinal West. It would be about 2 miles long, likely on private lands within the vicinity. So next slide, a little more detail. General location of the project is 10 miles west of Maricopa. I mentioned it's the solar PV facility and energy storage would be entirely on Bureau of Land Management lands. The field office that this location is within is the Lower Sonoran field office. Project itself, Maricopa County, portion of the gen tie would be within Pinal County as it gets close to the Pinal West substation. Also of note, in this area, we are adjacent to Section 368 Energy Corridor. There's a number of existing utilities within this corridor right now. And this is very early stage. very early stage at the moment, so we are still working out access, but at least preliminarily, the main access route would likely be from Arizona State Route 238, which is, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but right here, and then taking 83rd Avenue directly south to access the project site. Similar to what Toby said before, our planned commercial operation date for this project is in 2025. That would be the earliest the project would come online. Obviously, there's quite a bit of permitting to get through, and hopefully we can advance to the NEPA process and work out any of the potential resource conflicts and issues. But we're currently marketing the project as early as 2025 to potential off-takers. It could also wind up being 2026. That was short and sweet. That's it. Contact info for the lead developer, Jason Moretz, is here. Moretz at 8minute.com. Myself, L. Shillington at 8minute.com, and for the other for the consultants we're working with, Patricia and Lisa, as well as other members of our team, we are happy to provide that information to Tony and company to get uploaded to the website.
Let's go ahead and switch over to our last project we're going to be discussing today, which is going to be the Vulcan 2 solar project. Lewis is going to be the presenter. If you can go ahead and share your screen.
All right, we'll work on that. Let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. All right, can you see my screen as well?
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to present here. My name is Louis DeRosa. I'm a senior manager of permitting and siting with Candela Renewables. I'm here to talk about the Vulcan 2 solar project. Just a quick background on Candela. We were a relatively new company, founded in 2018, but as I'll explain in a second, we're largely formed by very experienced professionals in the industry with a deep history on projects across the country, as well as on particularly on BLM and federal lands. We're based in San Francisco. We have a over 8 gigawatt portfolio right now across the country, primarily focusing not just on the West, but all over the country, including Ohio, New York, Florida, Kentucky, Texas, and many other states across the country. We're a private small company, but our financial backers is Naturgy, which is a Spanish utility that's been around in some way, shape, or form for over 100 years. And they are our financial backer for this project and for the rest of our portfolio, as well as a potential long-term owner for the project. They anticipate being the long-term owner for most of our projects, including this one, for the operational life of the project. As you can see here, we have many projects across the country. I mentioned the experience of our leadership team, as well as most of the rest of our team as well. Just wanted to highlight a few of the projects that our team developed over the years, not necessarily for Candela, but in their career history. That includes the Sunstreams PDS project, which is in the neighborhood of the Vulcan 2 project that we're talking about today. The Topaz solar project, which was the largest project in the country at the time of its development and construction. The Silver State project in Nevada, which was the first large-scale solar project on BLM land in the country. The Agua Caliente project in Arizona, which was the largest project that was awarded a DOE loan guarantee at the time. And the Switch Station project in Nevada, which contracted with the commercial company Switch in one of the first projects to have a PPA, a commercial PPA, as opposed to with utilities. Moving on to the Vulcan 2 solar project that we're talking about today. The project is about 6 miles south of the Palo Verde generating station and southwest of Arlington, Arizona, in Maricopa County. It's on lands that are designated variance by the BLM, as well as a minor part on energy corridors that run through the project. As you can see here, the project is split into 4 blocks, A, B, C, and D. The corridors running through those blocks are also BLM land, but are energy corridors or other corridors that have been designated by the BLM. The project right now is conceived as a 650 megawatt project, also with an energy storage component to it, across 5,360 acres. The project is also directly adjacent to the Gillespie Solar Energy Zone. That is adjacent to Block D, just to the south of our project here, which is where the Vulcan 1 project, which is also a Candela Renewables project, is proposed. I'll mention that more on the next slide. Similar to the rest of the projects you've heard, the target operation date would be the end of 2025 for this project at the very earliest. It's possible that that moves into 2026, depending on the speed of permitting and engineering. The interconnection for this project would be the existing Hassayampa substation. You can see in green here our proposed GenTie alignment, which goes to the Hassayampa substation, which follows BLM land as well as Arizona state land, private land, and Maricopa County roadway easements to that substation. For access, the project actually runs largely adjacent to Agua Caliente Road, which is a county-maintained road across BLM. That would be our proposed primary route of access, and that comes off of Old Highway 80 in the area there. Water is still under consideration right now. It would either be through an off-site source that would be trucked or pipeline to the project site, or a well on-site. That is in development right now. The proposed water use for the project would be approximately 1,300 acre-feet of water for dust control during the 2-year construction period for the project. And then similar to the other projects that you heard today, the operational water usage is very minimal. We plan for up to 16 acre-feet for annual panel washing, although in reality, panel washing is likely to occur much more infrequently than that. And would be a very rare occurrence. Otherwise, under an acre-foot a year for potable use for the operations crew, which could be up to approximately 10 jobs, more or less. Zooming in just a little bit so you can get a better view of the blocks. Like I said, we would have 4 blocks separated with collection lines connecting them across the energy corridors. Access would largely be off Agua Caliente Road, although the Block B there would require a new access road for construction and operational access that would mirror the collection lines. Those are the yellow and red lines that you see on this screen. In addition to being on variance lands, this is also an area that the BLM has designated as a Renewable Energy Development Area, or a REDA. And as I mentioned, there is the adjacent proposed Vulcan solar project that's also Candela's. We would propose a shared substation between the 2 projects and a shared GenTie line as well between the 2 projects. That project is proposed to be up to 300 megawatts, again, within the Gillespie Solar Energy Zone. Finally, just to quickly address a couple of the other questions that have come up for the other projects. For jobs, we're anticipating an average workforce of approximately 800 workers during the construction period here, and again, an operational staff of closer to 10 individuals. Also, the technology that would be used here is again very similar to the projects that have been mentioned previously: a single access solar array trackers, as well as an energy storage component. We also take a light on land approach to grading, meaning that we minimize grading to the largest extent possible, preferring to mow vegetation and lay the trackers directly on top of the existing topography to the greatest extent possible, as well as avoiding the larger drainages that may pass through the site. We would stay out of those entirely and only develop on upland areas of the project. Thank you for the opportunity for the short overview. My contact information is here on the screen, and happy to take any questions as well.
We'll go ahead and close out for today. Thank you everyone for calling in. We really appreciate your input. I encourage all of you to submit any comments or questions that you have after the fact. Everything that you submit helps us create a better package when we're submitting this up to headquarters to review and for future potential development of a project. So thank you all so much for your time, and we really appreciate it.